Hello, my name is Mr. Ali. You have the pleasure of me hosting The Real Story. First of all, I would like to wish each of you a Happy New Year, and I hope you've had a great festive season. So at the start of 2020, you can imagine what we are going to be doing. We are going to be reviewing the highlights and lowlights of 2019. And to help me navigate what happened and what really stood out for them, I have the honor of introducing, not that he doesn't need any introducing, but my guest. Can you say hi and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Abid, and I'm honoured to be a guest on your show today, Mr. Ali.
Thank you, Abid, sir. And also, for those viewers that are out there, a familiar face. What can I say? Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Zahid Chowdhury, profession. I'm a solicitor. So I'm grateful, Mr. Ali. No, you invited me in your program, although I do my own program.
It's strange that I've got the guy who's on every night and also the CEO of ZMC here as my guest on The Real Story. So as we've mentioned now, 2019 was a tumultuous, should we say, a rather volcanic, eruptive kind of a year. And before we introduce some of the guests in terms of what's really stood out for them, for me personally, it was the year in which the Theresa May era finished. I think it was just a wrong place, wrong time for Theresa, unfortunately. And then we had the rather enigmatic Boris Johnson not only winning the contest for the Tory party, but also then going on to become the Prime Minister by the end of 2019. We also had some rather tragic events with the shooting of 51 innocent victims at the New Zealand Christchurch shooting massacre, which absolutely shook the world. And also the other thing that really stood out for me personally was Liverpool going on to win the Champions League and also more recently the Club World Cup Championship in December. So it's been a bit of a mixture, but as always, it is something that I think is worth revisiting, learning some of the lessons and taking those into 2020. So now I'm going to hand over to my guest, Abid Khan. First of all, maybe it's worth just sharing with the viewers a bit of a background as to some of the things that you get involved with, and then further on, if you can, share with the viewers in terms of some of the things that really stood out for you.
2019. What a year. Right, so first and foremost, my name's Abid. I run a commercial insurance brokerage and I've been in the industry for 20 years. So I started it when I had hair. I currently have no hair.
Yes.
I also so it look like that you are doing extremely hard work. You lost all your
No, it's not easy.
It is indeed.
Yeah, we think it is, but
no. We also run business networking events up and down the country, chutney and chat, coffee and natter. So I work with an organisation called Pathway to Grow, and it's about empowering and supporting business owners, particularly in current turbulent times where businesses are struggling. Mechanisms such as Pathway to Grow are critical for business growth and to support the local economy. I also work with a local youth charity called Birmingham Youth Sports Academy, BYSA,
oh, yes, absolutely.
where we do grassroots football for the youth and also offer them mentoring and life skills. Again, we are in turbulent times with the knife crime and gang crime and gun crime. And as a community, we actually need to take it upon ourselves to try and sort the happenings out.
Absolutely, we have to take responsibility for ourselves rather than looking for the statutory agencies.
So pretty full on.
Busy, absolutely.
Outstanding for me 2019, as you mentioned, Theresa May. Good riddance. But then we were faced with Boris. There's been personal achievements, highs, lows. All in all, I think it's been a good year. Looking forward to 2020, and let's see what that brings. But yeah, it's been
positive note.
It's been a good year.
And for you, Zaid, how was 2019 for you?
Very challenging.
Yes,
Ali bhai. The most important project was actually this ZMC TV.
Wow. Congratulations.
So
Real vision.
along with my profession, so that was a great challenge for me. And like all other professions and all other projects, there were some sort of hazards and obstacles and these sort of things. But Alhamdulillah, the people like you and other people, they supported me quite a lot to actually bring this in reality.
Your vision into reality.
Into reality. Because the whole idea behind ZMC network was to just actually provide platform to youngster here in the United Kingdom, to give them opportunity. Correct. Nothing else. There is no kind of, you can say, some financial reasons or something. No, that is the platform for youth.
Yes.
As Abad Bhai said, this is a responsibility of all of us.
That's right.
So we have to do something to pay back whatever this community gave us. So this is now a time that we must give. We must give something back to the community positively. So that was a great challenge. Overall, I think business-wise, like as profession, it was a great year. Alhamdulillah, yes. I won a lot of cases today. I was talking to my colleague and trainee. I said, because after break we just started today, so yes. I said we had quite tough and challenging cases where I was thinking, maybe it'd be difficult to get some kind of a relief for a client. But Alhamdulillah, when you have a faith and when you work hard
for it, absolutely,
and you take the things, I take my client like absolutely personally, and so on other political sides, as you all said. Obviously, that Brexit.
You can't get away from it, can you?
If you will see, we had a lot of program on CMC TV regarding Brexit, but we hope that in 2020 now we will certainly sort it out. Boris Johnson winning election with this majority is also a surprise. Of 2019 for me. I was anticipating that he will win, but I was not anticipating that he will get such a big majority.
Yes.
So these were the few things which nationally I was involved, and I thought this one. Internationally, if we see, there were many other issues like Kashmir. Revocation of Article 5 and 370, and imposing a curfew there. Absolutely. And a violation of gross violation of human rights there. Similarly, if we see in Pakistan, politically we see this one really a turmoil. There's no stability there, so we hope in this 2020 that we will get
bring a stability, really, a bit of hope to people on an international basis. Okay, so the plan for this show is that we are going to be reviewing month by month from January all the way to December, and we just picked up a couple of snippets. And if you would like to pick up the phone number is here. Please do dial in, and we'd love to have you on the show and certainly get your views and opinions on anything that we may have missed out. So starting with January, it was a year whereby the UK had its first conviction for FGM, so female genital mutilation, where a 37-year-old mother was convicted for putting her daughter through FGM. And it isn't a topic that I would talk about, but at the same time, as something that you alluded to, is unless we as a community, even though it doesn't affect the Pakistani community overwhelmingly at all, but it does affect Muslim stroke African community, and I think as people that are always putting any topic above any kind of taboo, it's only right that we talk about that. And I just want to sort of get your opinions on this, as to, Is that something that you've seen or you're hearing more, especially in your particular field as a solicitor, or is this something that is blown out of proportion and something that, you know, individuals or the right-wing extremists use it as a stick to beat the Muslim community?
No, obviously, I think, Brother Ali, it's very good that you actually raised this issue, because mostly people actually, they don't know about this
absolutely.
one, because these kind of topics, people see they are taboos. You can't, especially within a Muslim communities,
Absolutely.
we see this one. And because personally I done a few cases involving this.
Wow.
So this one, I think it is a time now that our scholars, our ulama, they should come forward.
Oh, fantastic.
They should come forward and they should highlight the status of this process within the teaching of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the teaching of the Quran. So this is very important, and how we can contribute, this is the way to raise the issues.
Absolutely.
We raise the issue, and I think in some of our program we will invite some
I think so.
our some brothers or sisters.
Maybe even a female ulama if we can.
Yeah, we can, and we can ask them, okay, look, we have to, but I think UK government is taking a quite a strong stance on that one, so which I think should be there. Should be there. So I think
it is the right thing to do. Abad, what your thoughts on it?
Like, I'll just echo what you said. We need leadership as a community. I think
Absolutely.
we are lacking, and there's several issues. There's this issue. There's the LGBT issue. There's many issues where as a community we're looking for leadership and we're looking for direction for somebody to come out and tackle the issue head on. Where I think we're in little segments and we're all doing our little bit, but we lack leadership and we lack direction.
So we do have the Muslim Council of Britain. So when you're talking about leadership, are you talking about from a national perspective or sort of smaller region by region? Because this LGBT, even though it was a national issue, but it was predominantly focused around 2 or 3 areas, 2 schools within Birmingham. And unfortunately, the community, our leadership did fail on an enormous scale, and the whole national but international media focus and made the local Muslim community look like we were back in the Stone Ages and we didn't want to be integrated.
And that's my point. If a faith leader came forward and explained the belief and the faith and how our perception of LGBT and was stated, then I don't believe anybody could argue against that.
Yes.
It's because everybody was putting their penny's worth in.
Yes.
Without any concrete evidence, and it was all hearsay that maybe fueled the fire. Yes, we do know the media doesn't translate stuff accordingly, but I don't think we've done ourselves any favors.
No.
Not having the
one thing which Abad Bhai said, this one, obviously when we talk about faith leaders, so unfortunately, this is my observation, I may be wrong,
please.
Because we don't see that our majority of our faith leader are in this position to actually explain these sort of in this complex multicultural society.
But wouldn't you feel that as a community we are failing then, because we have the wrong people representing us? Because we are in 2020, we are facing challenging times, and we need to adopt accordingly. If our faith leaders are not in a position to be tackling such issues, then should they be in a position where they're leading congregations?
So what are you suggesting then, Abad, which is quite a hard-hitting message if I get the interpretation right, is what you're saying is that the ulama or the imams of each mosque have been appointed should be forward-looking and focus more about UK rather than sort of international Pakistan sort of issues.
Well, of course.
In my humble
opinion, yes.
My humble opinion, we are facing many challenges today within the community. The youth being a major problem.
Yes.
Our lifestyles, and as Muslims, we should be looking to our faith leaders for guidance, advice, and how to move forward. Now, if we go back 20 years, the faith leaders the practices that they were doing then, they are doing today. Yet we've moved on. You know, we've gone to iPhone 11 and 12.
Yeah.
You know, technology's moved on, life's moved on. The LGBT issue and various other issues. We need current leaders, current ulama karam to come forward and lead the current nation.
Can I come in there, Robert? You know, if you were to, I mean, I know you deal with young people on a regular basis, especially with your football academy, BYSA. You know, these are young people in their early or late teens, sort of 18, 19, 20. You know, if you were to tell them that a religious leader is saying that you shouldn't murder someone, you shouldn't carry a knife because this is the addiction, this is the law, I don't think it will have any weighting on what the ulama say. When someone is that age, they're thinking, you know what, you're not relevant to me. Maybe a personality or a celebrity or a music star. I think these are what I call that. These are icons that these young people look to. If they will say, I think it'll have more weight.
I think they will listen to people who speak a language that they speak.
That's important.
To I agree. That resonate with them. I myself, I qualified as a teacher. I didn't go into the teaching profession. I actually graduated in theology. So I was supposed to go down the faith teaching route.
Sure.
In the year 2000, when I graduated, which institution would have paid me the salary that a mainstream school would have paid me?
No, that's true.
And I think 20 years later now, we're seeing the result of that disaster then. Because, for example, my class, my alumni who graduated with me at that time, none of them went on to teach.
That's a shame. So we don't know where those.
Yeah. So now when I ensure a lot of the faith establishments, and when I go and talk with them annually about their insurance, I'm faced with a room full of committee members who sometimes I feel are out of touch with what a current 12, 13, 14-year-old child needs. And as a result of that, our children, I feel, are kind of turning away, and we're losing a generation. So I wouldn't place all the blame on them, but certainly, they have something to answer for.
Yes.
The Friday speech hasn't changed for the past 40, 50 years.
It hasn't.
Unfortunately, it hasn't. We're not tackling current issues.
This is very important, Ali Bhai, because the concept of mosque. We now only conceal this in a sort of place of worship only. If we see
it should be one stop for every problem.
At the time of Prophet ﷺ, the mosque was actually the hub of all the community equipment.
Yes.
Foreign policy, economics policy, social, cultural, everything that was
we have the police wanting to work with our community. We have the armed forces wanting to work with our communities. We have the local hospices wanting to work with our community. Unfortunately, when the police walk into our mosques, our leaders refuse them entry.
Oh wow!
When the armed forces walk into our mosques, we refuse them entry. Now, they're not coming in to arrest people. They're coming in to give you support,
strengthen the bond,
and effectively help your community. Now, if we're declining their efforts, then
okay. I'm conscious of time. I'm going to move on if I may.
It's a bit controversial. So
no, absolutely, and so something very similar, where the Office of National Statistics in February also released their figures for knife crime as well. And what they said was that compared to the previous year, it was at an all-time high, with Birmingham and London leading the way in a bad way. Not something to be proud of, but and we've seen a real increase, and this has made headline news where people that were sort of traveling to and from a place of education, i.e. college or university or school, were murdered, and these are sort of such a big loss of unfulfilled potential that sends a reverberation through everyone for maybe 2 or 3 days. We're all shocked, we're all sort of slightly reflective, then we go back to normal.
And unfortunately, it's no longer breaking news, is it?
Yeah, it is
normal now.
Yeah. What you, Ali bhai, you think it's giving a reflection that we are a broken society? What you think?
I think it's a complex issue, and there's no easy answers, and deservedly so. It needs time and attention and resources put in if we are serious about it. And at the moment, at this time, it's a good talking point by all the statutory agencies, and it is, institutions like BYSA, JABS are put in there that are doing good work at the ground, who see these young people, and they've got a lot of fears, and they've got a lot of uncertainty about the future. One is that there is a real fear that a lot of these gangs and sort of drugs culture is becoming rife and is becoming the norm, and those people that are not part of that circle, they are sometimes fearful that they will be victims at some point, or will be groomed or bullied into doing something.
If we were to offer them alternatives, then it wouldn't be that easy for them to get groomed.
I think hope is a thing that is missing with young people.
Yes.
If we can give them hope that they can, if they were to study at school, and then do out of school activities, whether it's a mosque or the armed forces or whatever it may be, there is a good career is waiting for them, especially in the inner city areas that we're talking about, Handsworth, Lozells, Alam Rock, Small Heath, Spark Brook, then there's something that you work hard for. But there's a lot of people that we've seen that they may have done well, but you end up with no real prospect of having a job that will actually sustain the lifestyle that you want. And then they are thinking, the people that are sort of, in the gangs, they've got the chains, the phones, whatever it may be, and everyone aspires to be, wearing the latest mod cons. And unfortunately,
what you think? That's a long these austerity. Played any role to have this massive increase? What do you think?
It's
I know there are many factors.
I mean, from my perspective, the faith establishments have a lot to answer for. The parenting,
absolutely.
I personally have engaged with parents who are unfortunately proud that their children are serving time, and it's a symbol of manhood. Now, if we're in such times, who can you blame?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would like to come in.
Now, our generation,
yes,
we were brought up very different. We done everything, but we had an element of respect. And
respect, yes.
Until today, we have a respect of our elders, of
absolutely.
of our surroundings, and we behave in certain ways in front of certain people. But this young generation, unfortunately, there's no and the reason that we are the way we are was some effort from the parenting, some effort from the mosque, and some from schooling, and combined it created our personalities. Unfortunately, in the modern era, in the modern times, schooling is abysmal, it's failed. Parenting is questionable, and the faith establishments again are questionable. So where do these kids go? And you can have 1 million JABS B8s or 1 million BYSAs, it's just not enough.
Well, obviously, a child spent most of his or her time in school, isn't it? From 9 till half 3, 4 o'clock. That's actually a lot of time, full day.
Yeah.
So, as you are having, you told this one, you done your teaching, and so you think that schools are playing their
if the school
part which they're supposed to play.
If the schools were being held accountable for what they are teaching, it'd be a different thing. They're currently running on league tables, and it's about performance. Education isn't what it used to be.
No,
we've run a mentoring program now for 2 years, and that mentoring program filled the gap of life skills, because the kids are being pushed for maths, English, and the teachers will pick out the ones that they feel have have any chance of getting through, and the rest are just left to one side. As a voluntary organisation, we kind of fill that gap, and we got external forces in to come in and give the kids basic life skills. Which we were taught in school.
No, I agree. And I want to come on that point about austerity. Since 2010, there was a 33% cut in children's services in terms of youth clubs, youth workers and so on. And at the same time, in mainstream education as well. So when you, I know you graduated as a teacher, but so did I. So I was teaching science for 5 years in school. When you, as a teacher with no TA, are teaching 30 children with basic equipment, and there's a lot of pressure, it's very hard for you to control that. So, it's not easy out there. Everyone's playing their role. At the same time, as parents, you are struggling to make ends meet with the reduction in tax credits and the introduction of universal tax credits. People are now having forced to sort of go and work. They've got no choice. When I used to come home, my mum was there to cook and clean and look after us. But that's not the case. We've got both parents working. So a lot of times when the kids come home, the grandparents may fill that role, or there's literally no one at home to sort of cook and clean. So there has been a bit of a destruction of that community family feel. But there's no easy answers. And until something really drastic happens, I think there's no real sort of hope for young people at the moment. We can all play a role and a part in our silos, but we need a collective effort. And that's not been happening. So moving on to March, if I may, that was when Theresa May suffered her second defeat in the House of Parliament for her withdrawal bill, and I think the writing was on the wall. So she resigned. I think it was May she resigned. But what do you think? Would she have made a good Prime Minister at any other time? That just that the whole Brexit was just too big for her to handle, or do you think that she wasn't fit to be a Prime Minister at any age?
If you will ask my personal personal opinion, because obviously she was our home secretary, so we dealt with her. So my personal opinion, she was not up to that job, because we dealt, we saw her working and legislation regarding all the issues relating to Home Office. So I think that was too much for her to actually deal with that.
I agree. I agree. And also, I don't think she had the personality, because when you're a leader, you don't actually do all the work yourself. You have a team, and it's about you making sure you get the best out of the team. And I don't think she had that kind of sort of personality in the character.
She was thrown in at the deep end. She wasn't up for the job.
And she's a Remainer as well.
And she made a bigger mess out of it than it already was, which it was it would have been a challenge for anybody. At that stage, in her defense, it would have been a challenge for anybody. But for her, it was just.
But obviously, if we will say this one, that was the David Cameron decision.
Disaster, really.
So obviously, that was not like something mandatory or compulsory that he must announce this one. I'm going to have a referendum.
No. I think that was a matter of principle, really.
Because after winning a third term, so he was very confident. Look, whatever I will say, this one, the people will actually follow me. But unfortunately,
miscalculation.
Miscalculation.
Also, in March, we had the tragic incident over in Christchurch in New Zealand, whereby a right-wing terrorist went into a mosque where people were praying, where people were sort of, meditating, reflecting, and horrendously went and just started shooting them one by one. And what made it worse was I think he was also transmitting that live on Facebook, so he had the camera sort of attached to his head, and there were small snippets, and it looked like a computer game, but one thing out of the whole sort of tragedy was that we discovered who the Prime Minister of New Zealand was, Jacinda Ardern. She really stepped up. Just your thoughts about the whole effort, and do you think this sort of anti-Islamic or anti-Muslim vibe is on the increase? Do you see that maybe something like that will happen here in the UK, God forbid?
No, I personally think that whatever the Prime Minister of New Zealand actually done at that time, we all must appreciate
Absolutely.
that one. That was the right thing to do that. The one thing, look, as a Muslims, we always condemn any act of terrorism, violence, because Islam is a religion of peace. Again, we come, as the brother Abad said, that is a duty of our faith leader.
Absolutely.
To portray the true picture of Islam. What is actually Islam? The Prophet ﷺ said, the best Muslim is the one from whom tongue and the hand, the others are safe.
Very good.
So how can a Muslim inflict any harm to another countryman, fellowman, or another community member?
Yes.
So we what you said, obviously, overall, if you will see in Europe, right-wing politics actually on a rise.
East Europe.
On a rise, and why we pray that again in UK, I think still we are holding very firm with our identities, with our norms and customs, and I think a community is living in a very harmony and safe, and I pray it will carry on.
Abid?
Yeah, you asked a question. Do you think that attacks are a chance? I personally do. But I think a lot of it is media driven. A lot of the hate is created by the media. Yes, we stand against any such acts. And what happened in Christchurch was horrendous. But again, the leadership of that country was an example for world leaders. So the way she came out and the way she dealt with it.
Because I'm just thinking now, Brexit is more or less on it's been sorted now.
Yeah.
We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Do you think that whole sort of that division that the country had will now sort of start coming together and placating the differences?
Fortunately, personally, I don't. I mean, if you just scroll down your feed on social media and you look at last night, there was a non-Asian chap breaking into a van and it says man broke into a van, and if it's an Asian picture it'll be Muslim broke into a van, and it's things like that that do not help.
No.
And that hate has been manifest and really dug in. So I think it's going to be a while before attitudes change.
Yes.
It will the damage. I personally again say whatever the damage this Brexit done to the UK, it may take a time.
It will time to heal.
Because if you will see this one, what is the situation in Scotland and Wales and the people?
Yeah, but the racism isn't all down to Brexit. These problems were before. Brexit's been a year, 2 years.
So do you think this has emboldened people that were closet racist?
I think again it's down to the way things are actually put out. And people have made these statements before as well. Why, if it's an Asian male or an Asian female, why is the word Muslim used? You'll never hear a Christian broke into a van, but you always tend to hear Muslim.
Yes.
And it's this word. I mean, that's why it's hated so much, because it's regularly thrown at you.
Yes.
So.
No, that's fine. So moving into the summer of this year, we had some fantastic news with the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Clark, where Meghan Markle, that's right. Yeah, she. I used to watch her regularly on Suits, and I think Abid, you're also a big fan as well. So I don't know whether you're familiar with Suits. It's a American news of the summer, but at the same time, around October, November, there was some bad news around Prince Andrew, which we will come to, which we will come to shortly. And around also June time, also Theresa May lost her job. She actually resigned. We mentioned Liverpool winning their Champions League, but also at the same time, I mean, one of the things that you touched on, Brother Zaid, I think is worth touching on, is this is when India had won their election. Prime Minister Modi had now got another 5 years of term, where then he actually delivered on what he promised during that manifesto, whereby he was going to revoke the identity of the Kashmiri people, because when Pakistan and India had their independence, Kashmir was given a special autonomous state that only the Kashmiris will be able to get jobs in the civil service, will be having their identity, be able to get property. But that was then all eroded away, and Prime Minister Modi said anyone within India can go there, get jobs and buy property, and that was the first step in trying to erode the identity of the Kashmiri people. Yeah. And there was a lot of demonstrations here, and a lot of people who believed in that humanitarian cause stepped up, and also the Prime Minister of Imran Khan went to the United Nations and gave that very powerful speech. So someone from the slightly outside, if you don't mind me saying, Abud, when you saw this, because we've been demonstrating now for 40 or 50 years about Kashmir, and nothing really has been achieved, if I can say, get away with saying that, did you think, oh yeah, they'll be there for 2 or 3 weeks demonstrating, but something strategic needs to be done behind the scenes? Or what were your thoughts during the summer of protest?
I think, as you say, we had loads of little groups of people doing their private protests. But I don't think that there was done anything was done collectively. They had one visit to London, but again, I think several parties made their own route. So when there's no unity amongst the people, who's going to listen to you? And I just feel it was a ploy to get Facebook pictures and social media admiration, but nothing of any substance.
Concrete and substance.
And it's been going on for, as you say, for many years, and it will continue for many years until we don't unite on one platform. And everybody claims to be uniting on one platform. However, it's not shown that way.
It's not.
So
it's true. And I will only add, Brother Abid, this. It's true. Again, the question is actually leadership.
Yes.
Everyone is actually
it all goes back down to
promoting this one. I'm a leader. I think personally that for a bigger cause, you must unite behind a visionary leadership.
Yes.
But the problem is then, who becomes the leader?
I was going to say,
this is a very big $1 million question.
We've got 3 people here, brothers, right? And in our own fields, we were leaders. And I don't think there's no democratic system here. These are self-appointed people, and if Abid says, look, I'm going to be leading in this particular case, I'll be thinking, if Abid can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. And all of a sudden we start fighting in between us, and the cause stays where we are, and then there's factions, and unfortunately I don't know how we're going to get our act together. I'm just going to take it onto the LGBT issue if I can, whereby we were protesting on the streets and we were doing our bits and pieces. I tell you what the Jewish community in London did. They got together and decided, okay, this is something that we don't agree with and we don't want to introduce to our Jewish schools. They got one of their leading Jewish firms, sister firms, to write a fantastic letter with all the different laws that should allows them religious freedom, and it goes against their human rights, and send that to the Home Secretary. And that was one way, and I don't know whether they were successful in actually, deflecting the whole sort of Equality Act and the LGBT teaching in their school, but that was their mode of action, and I'm sure they were far more successful in that route rather than small snippets of people protesting in front of the world media.
We do have some really passionate and sincere people, and they've led the fight from the front. However, again, they need leadership, they need direction, they need support.
And this is whatever Brother Ali is saying. This is a way to move forward. Okay, find out the legal and concrete, strong things to do this
Absolutely.
one. And look. I mean, there are examples.
Yeah, I agree.
Jewish community set the example.
Yeah.
Why not? We are doing.
We've got lots of lessons to learn if we're willing to learn them. And I don't think we are.
I think the key word is they learn.
Absolutely.
Right? And until we don't open ourselves up to learning.
And I think this social media has got a lot to answer for, because when we start doing selfies and it's all good, you want to raise awareness, but then it's your sort of your personal ego comes in, and the whole publicity angle. and then people, and this is what I am rather afraid of, Brother Zaid, correct me if I'm wrong, is our younger generation are far more, should we say, concerned about the Palestinian plight than they are with their traditional homeland where their parents have migrated. And I think, young girls, young people are far more connected with that than they are with Kashmir, and that's because they see the elders and the way they behave and the way it's all about them, that they think, well, I don't want anything part of this.
Again, yes, that's correctly you said, Brother Ali. If you will see when the people go for this protest and this one, if you will see how much is the participation of young people
and women as well,
and the women, that is very important. But contrastly, if you will see the Palestine and the other things, and you will see the youth there.
The wider community will attend.
I think one of the reasons for that is that the big charities, they present these issues in a very nice way. When they hold their events, they do their videos. About Kashmir, there's not much out there apart from the elders taking shots at each other.
No. And I would, sorry to interrupt there, come in, but I tell you what I suggested in one of the roundtable meetings. I said, look, I've only recently come on board, and it's a fantastic cause, is fantastic, but the way we're going about it isn't, because when you've got, two protests on 2 separate days by 2 different groups, it doesn't look good. And I just want to go there and play my part. I don't want to get involved in your politics. But one thing is that you have to share information to people like me and to the younger people of the history of what's going on.
In a way that they understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. In infographics, like headline. We don't want to chapter and verse because no one, has that time and energy really. But just bullet point snippets of what's going on. So we think, okay, this is not right. This can't be happening. And there's enormous tragedy that's going on. There, people are getting raped, getting blinded, all sorts. And anyone that's been given that information, they will be automatically, emboldened to be part of that. But unfortunately, we don't.
Yeah, all the stuff about Kashmir, I've yet to see anything which is relatable to the youth of today about Kashmir. Whereas you've got Syria and you've got all the other atrocities in the world. They're presented in such a manner that is very appealing for the youth to want to get involved.
Yes.
And the point you make is very right about the modern day youth.
But we must understand our responsibility. Look, the issue of Kashmir is very close to our heart.
Yes.
And as a lawyer, as a human rights lawyer, I see this one, there is a gross violation of a human right. People should not take this like on a religious lines or on a land line. This is the people are actually inside their homes for over 145 days without any modern way of communications.
Sure.
No schools, no medicines, no treatment. So we are talking in these 21st centuries. Get about these animals' right. We are talking about, but as Badr said, we should understand our responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Look, we have to raise this issue in a way that our young generation actually connect with this.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not relatable at all.
Yes. One other thing that was a big, I would say, change in 2019 was the whole environmental debate came to the forefront, especially with 2 particular names. One is Greta Thunberg, that young Swedish lady who traveled all the way from her native country to the United Nations to give that speech to all the political leaders of the world. And it was a very brave speech, it was a very direct speech. And the other one was Extinct Rebellion. What do you think in terms of environmental damage that we are causing with all the Amazon fires and the fires recently now in Australia? Do we take the whole environment seriously? Is this something that we think that is for more white middle class people? What are your thoughts?
This is, from my point of view, this is an extremely important issue. But unfortunately, we as our community, if we talk this
sure.
one, we have no knowledge, no understanding about this extremely important issue.
Absolutely.
And because this is actually an issue which is affecting not only us, but it will also affect our upcoming generations.
Absolutely.
So now the fundamental question which we have to ask us, what we are doing to contribute to reduce the damage which we are actually causing to our environment.
Very well said. No, I agree. And, just look at the number of deaths from respiratory diseases, which is then coming from fumes.
Yes.
It's enormous, especially in young children. And next year, it's this year now, but from 1st of July, we have the clean air zone being introduced in Birmingham, and everyone is up in arms because of the cost that we'll be doing. And in one way, at some point, we have to start somewhere. And it's going to, cost money, and I'm talking about individuals as well. But are we prepared? Not quite sure. What are your views about the whole thing?
Okay, I just think that we have the attitude that it's not my problem, unfortunately, and we need to take ownership of this, because, as you're saying, it's going to affect our future generation. Well, it's affecting our health.
Yes.
It's also going to affect our kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. This clean air zone has been very successful although I was one of the vocal ones who spoke out against it. However, when you accustom to a certain lifestyle, change can be difficult.
Absolutely.
But in Manchester, for example, there was an uproar, but now it's very successful. And I think in Birmingham, over time, people will get used to it, and I think people should come out on the bikes because it's a lot more healthier for you. Anyway.
And on the A34 and on the A38, we've got bike zones. And sometimes when you are stuck in traffic, you're a bit, these are a waste of time. But unless they're there, how are we going to get the cyclists to come out? So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. We mentioned earlier that the royal family were having a good time until about September, October, when the whole allegations of Prince Andrew surfaced about him grooming and taking advantage of young girls. And he was closely linked with Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted of sex trafficking, and there was a close association with that. And then one girl in particular from the USA made some serious allegations against Prince Andrew, and Prince Andrew, in his great wisdom, should we say, then gave the interview to a BBC journalist. I'm sure both of you may have watched a small or to a greater degree that interview. Ahmed, how was it for you? Was it quite...
well, I mean, he states in his interview that he maintained his friendship once Jeffrey got convicted.
That's right.
What can you say after that?
Absolutely.
And I think the best is yet to come. It's not over yet. When you're making statements, and then he says, yes, I let the side down. Well, look at who you are. Look at who you're representing. And your affiliations and associations need to be considered and very carefully monitored. I think the best is yet to come.
So obviously, it is very important that you should understand this one, where you stand. As Abba said, this one, look, you representing. So I think as this matter is still, I think is not gone away, is still there.
I'll tell you what sort of stood out for me was his detachment from reality, where you can come onto a studio where you got millions of people watching, and you can pull the wool over people's eyes. First of all, there was no sympathy towards the victim, and then secondly, the fact that he said that because of the Falklands War, he doesn't sweat.
I mean, this is. I think this is all down to our current Prime Minister, who just says whatever he wants to say. I think he set a trend where people think they can say anything,
and people will just digest it.
And the truth is, they will digest it. The be all and end all of it is they will digest it, and they'll talk about it for a couple of weeks. And
when you mentioned, I was 14 years ago, I was in Pizza Express. And I remember clearly that, it may be somewhere in Woking, for example, because I don't normally do that. I thought, it just didn't sound real at all, didn't sound plausible at all. But now moving on to now, December now, we're sort of almost to the end of our show. We had the leaders' debates. We had Boris Johnson going against the wannabe, the Jeremy Corbyn. And the whole sort of campaign was rather toxic. A lot of people were sort of, doing underhand that they normally wouldn't. Then on the 12th of December, the election was called. Before we talk about the result, I think it's worth talking about, was it a mistake with hindsight now by the Labour Party and the other oppositions to call for the election? And how do you think that Jeremy Corbyn fared with Boris Johnson when they had those leaders' debates?
Yes, if you ask my opinion, yes, that was actually, I think, Jeremy Corbyn a mistake to accept this general election. Because even if you will see the first year leadership of Labour, they were convinced this one, they're not going to win it.
Yeah.
So when you know this one, so then I think, and I think my observation is that Boris Johnson was actually in a box.
Yes, that's what he was.
It was very difficult for him to get out of that box. So I don't know who actually advised Jeremy Corbyn to accept this one. But obviously I'm not saying the Labour Party actually paid a very heavy price for that this year.
Absolutely. And again, not the result, but just the lead up to the campaign. And how do you think both Boris Johnson and Jeremy
didn't win? Labour lost miserably. He had this misconception that by giving everybody free internet, he was going to win the election. Yes, we are an internet savvy world, but not that desperate. So I think the leadership was wrong, and I mean he the wrong face, the wrong person, the wrong fit. It was just inevitable.
Yeah.
But again, obviously, another thing, I think more left-wing sort of a politics is there now, and we should understand that now a lot of water has been blown under the bridges now, because this is now you can't say this one. Okay, I will have a left-wing politics, and then I will no. You have to consider what you will. If you will only do the left-wing politics, what you will do for this working class.
Yes.
So that was another I think because for last a few years Jeremy Corbyn he was having a very dominant control on Labour Party, and if you will see this one, whoever was doing something against this leadership, he was kicking out. So there are many other factors here.
So on the 12th of December, a lot of people's futures were on the line. People were hopeful. People were afraid, and quite quickly, as soon as the exit polls were released, people realised that this is going to be a complete one-sided affair. The Tories won by 80 votes, and the person who wanted it so desperately all his life, so other people called him a performing baboon, but he is now the Prime Minister of this great country, UK. And within a short space of time, he has delivered what he's promised, i.e. to get out of Brexit, so i.e. get Brexit done. He has done that now. What sort of Prime Minister do you think he will make for the next 5 years?
Well, I read an article today from the Mirror where the NHS is actually up for sale, certain segments of it. So the madness has started, and it's only going to get worse. Brexit was a massive problem.
Yeah.
But as important are the local issues.
Absolutely.
That we face as a country, as an economy. And I think we're in for some very, very tough times ahead. Very, very tough times.
But do you think, we had a lot of Remain people voting for Boris Johnson because they just wanted the whole Brexit done? A lot of the northern cities voted for the Tories and Boris Johnson. First time ever they voted for Tories. So he has now started sort of try to get them for life now. He's invested 20 billion into the NHS. He's promised 20,000 police officers.
He's investing all this, but yet he's putting certain parts of the NHS out to tender. Now, that is privatisation, and that will cause a lot of problems because not everybody can afford that.
No.
Primary healthcare, it's compulsory.
Yes.
And if we lose that,
yes,
then what? I mean, we've lost education, We have no policing. Our healthcare is on the rocks anyway. But if that gets privatized, what kind of country are we going to become, and what kind of challenges are we going to face?
Absolutely. No, you're right. So I think it is important that we have a strong opposition, that we hold the government and Boris Johnson to account, and we're just hopeful that the leadership battle for the Labour Party is done ASAP, and the right leader is chosen as quickly as possible. Last point I want to make also is the 2 points in December is the London terror attack, whereby I think someone who was convicted of plotting a terrorist attack about 8-10 years ago was early discharged, and he was living in Staffordshire, moved to sort of London to do some training, and he in his stupidity, complete mindlessness, went and attacked Joe Public on the street and where he was having the training. 2 young people unnecessarily lost their lives, and just when you thought the whole sort of the Islamic negative press was going away, it resurfaced as well, and sometimes as soon as this comes in, you just put your hands on the thinking, I hope Islamic or Muslims aren't on that light, because at work, wherever it is, we have a lot of diverse friends. I certainly, for the few days, slightly just lower my gaze. I shouldn't do, but I just feel as though I'm on the back foot, I'm on the defensive.
Yes, we do feel responsible because we are one community, and it's unfortunate that such things happen, and such people hold such mindsets. It's crazy. There's a lot of there's not entire clarity over the whole situation. There's a bit of stuff that's not quite clear.
Yes.
However, it was bad. It was evil, and we denounce it, and we.
When you saw that, what was your thoughts?
No, as previously I said, obviously we condemn whatever was happening, but again, as a community, we should take our responsibility.
Absolutely.
And our faith leader.
And it goes back to faith. Everything goes back to faith.
Because obviously, because we are running out of time, right? So I don't want to go into that. There is a hadith of Prophet ﷺ. They say, the people who are responsible for teaching, for preaching, they have to play extremely greater role.
Yes.
That is a gist of Prophet ﷺ hadith. So who are those? That's our people who are actually sitting on the members and delivering their very flowery speeches, but without substance.
Well said. So our thoughts and prayers are of the family of the 2 people that unfortunately died on that tragic day, had bright futures, and just unnecessarily taken away at such an early stage. And my final point is always around December, the issue of homelessness does resurface. I know you've done a lot of work, Abid, around Birmingham in terms of homelessness and giving up your time. And the Office of National Statistics actually shared the data, and it showed that there was roughly a 22% increase compared to the previous year. And in there, we do include rough sleepers, people that are sort of in short-term temporary accommodation. But at the moment, the government have pledged that they want to get rid of it completely, abolish it by 2027, which is only 7 years away. Do you think that is possible? Albert, please.
Well, it needs to be possible because we need to actually get rid of it yesterday. It's any junction in Birmingham, any traffic light, any main road, any petrol station, any shop, wherever you go, you will get approached by a homeless person. Yes, there's a lot of people that are maybe not genuine. However, there is a lot of people that are genuine. And as you mentioned before, austerity, cuts, cutback, shortages are all contributing towards this. And as a community, again, we do these fundraising events and we send millions and millions and millions of pounds overseas. my faith says look after your neighbour first. You know, and unfortunately, I believe the day will come when the UK needs aid. And Uncle Trump is not coming to save us.
No.
He's not coming to save us. So we need to look after ourselves before we start making these big pledges
elsewhere
internationally.
But so I will only say we have to find out the reasons why there is a massive increase in this homelessness.
Because the reasons are they're losing their jobs, they can't pay their mortgages, they're being kicked out, they can't afford to feed the kids. Dinner monies are absolutely phenomenally high. Schools want money to go one bus stop down the road on a school trip. I've had to say no to a few trips. I feel bad, but for 3 bus stops, I'm not paying £15.
No, wow.
I'm not paying £15. So parents can't afford this.
No.
The cost of living has gone up. Salaries are non-existent.
Stable. They haven't increased.
So we have to address all these factors which Abad actually mentioned if we want to control. But I think, to me, it's look a bit unrealistic target in 7 years. It will be difficult.
It's difficult, I think.
But if you have a conviction, maybe
it can be done.
It can be done, but under current scenarios, because government is having own priorities, I don't think so. Birmingham City Council not having too much
homeless
funds
needs to become a top, and it's not just about feeding them. It's about the whole shabam. They need housing, they need support,
mental health support. We had Mo Nawaz here a couple of weeks ago, and he went in depth into some of the wider aspects that are blighting people that are made homeless, and no one chooses this particular lifestyle. So I think it's worth sharing that out there. So that was the year of 2019. So we had highs and lows. But before we end the show, I'm going to now just again ask Abid and also Zaid to maybe share with the viewers what their personal hopes are for 2020, and also what they want on a slightly wider scale as well. So Zaid, if I can start with you.
But only my resolution is I want to be a better person. I will compare very simple. I will compare myself with it to 2019, and I will see this one. Okay, am I a better person for my friends, for my family? So that's the very important things. Okay, if you will be a better person to serve the community, to pay them back whatever community invested in you, you will be okay.
Great, simple point. I suppose. Maybe this time next year we will be the judge of that as well, Brother Zaid. So we'll get a pay rise out of him, Zaid. More shows.
Open to more learning, giving more time where you can to support the community. Everybody has a skill set. It's identifying that and using it to the best of your ability. So whatever I have been blessed with, to use that more, and where I'm lacking, get support on that. And that's it really, that's all one can ask for.
No, that's a great insight by both of them. I think it's only right that I also share what I want to focus on in 2020, and it's simply being the best version of Mr. Ali, and giving 100% to everything that I do, and hopefully people that are surrounding me, working with me, that are with me, will realise that he doesn't leave any stones unturned. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of 2019. This time next week we will have another fantastic guest who will be giving us a detailed knowledge of another fantastic topic. Until then, please look after yourselves and of each other. Thank you very much for tuning in.